Hey everyone, I'm Monoscaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Ethan Brooks. Last night I watched the stars shift in shapes that spelled my name. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, while the details haven't been smoothed over by my brain trying to make sense of what happened. My therapist says trauma does that, rounds off the sharp edges until you can live with the memory. But I don't want to live with a comfortable lie. I need the truth even if it destroys me. We left San Diego on a Thursday morning in Marcus's RV, a 32-foot Winnebago he'd bought used 3 years ago. Tyler rode shotgun, and I took the dinette in back, my laptop open to finish some work emails before we hit the dead zones. The plan was simple. 5 days in Death Valley, away from light pollution, away from cell towers, away from everything. Marcus had been planning this trip for months, ever since he'd bought the new telescope, a Celestron Schmidt Cassegrain that cost more than my car. "You're going to lose your mind when you see Saturn through this thing," Marcus said, glancing back at me in the rearview mirror. He had that excited gleam in his eye, the one that appeared whenever he talked about astronomy. The rings are going to be perfectly tilted this time of year, and Jupiter's moons, man, you can see them lined up like little pearls. Tyler scrolled through his phone, probably his last chance to check social media before we went dark. 5 days without Wi-Fi. I'm going to forget how to be a functioning adult. "That's the point," I said, not looking up from my laptop. I had 2 more emails to send before we left civilization behind. The drive took about 6 hours, counting stops. We entered Death Valley National Park around 3 p.m., the October sun still high and harsh. The landscape looked exactly like every photo I'd ever seen. Vast, barren, beautiful in an alien way. Miles of nothing interrupted by the occasional cluster of rocks or a dried-up wash. The temperature gauge on the RV dashboard read 94 degrees. We'd reserved a spot at Furnace Creek Campground, one of the few RV sites with hookups. Marcus pulled into spot 47, a gravel pad with a concrete picnic table and a fire ring. No trees, no shade, just open sky in every direction. Perfect for stargazing. Terrible for everything else. "Home sweet home," Marcus said, killing the engine. We spent the next hour setting up, leveling the RV, connecting the electric and water, deploying the awning. Tyler grilled burgers on the propane stove while Marcus assembled his telescope. I sat at the picnic table and watched the sun sink toward the Panamint Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that looked photoshopped. "You know what I love about this place?" Marcus said, adjusting the telescope's equatorial mount. "No context, nothing to reference. You could tell me we're on Mars and I'd believe you." Tyler flipped the burgers. "Except for the breathable atmosphere. Minor detail. We ate dinner as the temperature dropped. By 7 p.m. it was in the 60s. By 8 p.m., 50s. Marcus hauled out fleece jackets from the RV storage. The stars began appearing, one by one, then dozens, then hundreds. I'd seen dark skies before, camping trips with my family when I was a kid, back before everything fell apart. But never like this. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of light. "That's what we came for," Marcus said softly. He spent the next 2 hours showing us celestial objects through the telescope. Saturn's rings, crisp and impossibly beautiful. Jupiter with its storm bands and 4 Galilean moons. The Andromeda Galaxy, a smudge of light that Marcus explained was 5 million years old. Tyler took photos on his phone, though they never captured what the eye could see. Around 10 p.m., Tyler went inside to sleep. Marcus stayed out, making notes in his astronomy journal. I remained at the picnic table, wrapped in a blanket, staring up. That's when I first noticed it. I wasn't an astronomer. I couldn't identify constellations beyond the Big Dipper and Orion. But I noticed patterns in things. Always had, even as a kid. Patterns in numbers. Patterns in behavior, patterns in the way people spoke when they were lying. My sister Emma used to call it my superpower, back when we were young enough to believe in superpowers. The stars seemed to form something, Not the traditional connect the dots constellations, but something else. Letters, maybe. Or the suggestion of letters. I stared until my eyes watered, and the pattern dissolved. "You seeing something?" Marcus asked. "Just tired," I said. "Going to crash." I went inside, brushed my teeth in the tiny RV bathroom, and climbed into the overhead bunk above the cab. Tyler was already snoring softly in the rear bedroom. Marcus stayed outside with his stars. I couldn't sleep. The RV felt claustrophobic after the endless sky, and my mind kept returning to the pattern I'd seen, or thought I'd seen. Letters spelling. What? Nothing. My imagination filling in blanks. I must have eventually dozed off because I woke to voices outside. Marcus and Tyler talking low. I checked my phone. 2:47 a.m. No signal, but the time was accurate. "Just looked wrong," Tyler was saying. "Atmospheric distortion," Marcus replied. "Happens all the time. Not like that." I climbed down from the bunk and opened the RV door. The cold hit me immediately. Had to be in the 40s now. Marcus and Tyler stood by the telescope, both staring up. "What's going on?" I asked. Tyler glanced at me. "I came out to piss and the stars looked weird." "Weird how?" "Like they were moving." Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. "They're always moving, man. Earth's rotation. That's why the telescope has a tracking mount. Not rotating. Moving. Like..." Tyler gestured helplessly at the sky. "Rearranging." I looked up. The stars looked the same as before. Thousands of points of light. The Milky Way bisecting the sky. Beautiful. Static. "You're tired," I said. "We all are." "Yeah." Tyler rubbed his eyes. "Yeah, you're right. I'm seeing things." We went back inside. Marcus stayed out another hour, then finally joined us. I heard him moving around in the galley making coffee, whispering to himself. Doing calculations, probably. That was Marcus. Always quantifying, always measuring. The next morning felt normal. We made breakfast, eggs and toast and overcooked bacon, and Tyler drove us out to Badwater Basin to see the salt flats, the lowest point in North America, 282 feet below sea level. We walked out onto the hexagonal patterns of crystallized salt, and I took photos that would look like everyone else's photos. Tourist snapshots of an alien landscape. "This place is insane," Tyler said. "It's like nature had a glitch." Marcus crouched down, examining the salt formations. Death Valley is one of the hottest places on Earth. Gets up to 130 degrees in summer, and it's one of the driest. Less than 2 inches of rain per year. Why did we come here again? Because there's no light pollution for 200 miles in any direction. We spent the day driving through the park, Artist's Palette, Dante's View, Ubeheba Crater. Each location more surreal than the last. Tyler took selfies at every stop. Marcus measured elevation changes with his GPS device and noted them in his journal. I mostly stayed quiet, thinking about patterns. My sister Emma had been obsessed with patterns too. She'd seen connections everywhere, in song lyrics, in cloud formations, in the way people chose their words. Our parents thought she was gifted. The therapist we finally saw, after Emma started missing school and staying up all night, called it apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. 3 weeks after that diagnosis, Emma walked into traffic on the I-5. She survived, barely. Brain damage, years of rehabilitation. She lived in a care facility now, and I visited twice a month, and she never recognized me. Some patterns are real. Some patterns destroy you. We got back to the campground around 6 p.m. The sun was setting again, same colors, same mountain silhouettes. Marcus made spaghetti while Tyler and I sat outside. A family at the neighboring campsite, parents and 2 kids, were packing up their gear. "Heading out?" Tyler called over. The father glanced at us, then away quickly. "Yeah, kids have school Monday." But it was only Friday. They had the whole weekend. The mother herded the children into their RV without looking at us. Within 20 minutes, they were gone. pulling out of their spot and driving away too fast on the gravel road. "That was weird," Tyler said. "Maybe they got into a fight," I suggested. "Maybe." We ate dinner as the stars emerged again, thousands of them, then tens of thousands. Marcus set up his telescope and began his routine of celestial observations. Tyler tried to get a signal on his phone, walking around the campground with his arm raised, chasing phantom bars. I sat at the picnic table and watched the sky. The pattern came back. Not slowly. It snapped into focus, like those optical illusions that suddenly resolve into a hidden image. The stars formed letters, large, crude, but unmistakable. Ethan. My name. I blinked hard, looked away, looked back. The letters remained. Ethan, spelled out in stars across the southern sky, each letter maybe 15 degrees of arc. "Marcus," I said. My voice sounded strange. He was adjusting the telescope's focus. "The stars? Do you see anything in the stars?" "Like what?" "Like letters." He straightened up, looking at me with concern. "You okay? Just look. Southern sky, do you see it?" Marcus looked up, studying the sky with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent hundreds of hours stargazing. After a long moment, he shook his head. "I see Sagittarius, Scorpius, the galactic center. What am I supposed to be seeing?" I pointed, tracing the letters. "There, ETHAN, my name. It's right there." Marcus followed my gesture, frowning. "Dude, that's random star patterns. Your brain is making connections." It spelled out, clear as day. "Ethan." He put a hand on my shoulder. "You know what apophenia is, right?" The word hit me like a slap. "Don't. I'm not trying to. Don't compare me to her." Tyler walked back over, still holding his phone. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "I'm tired. Going to bed." I went inside the RV and closed the door harder than necessary. Behind me, I heard Tyler asking Marcus what happened and Marcus explaining in a low voice about my sister, about Emma's condition, about pattern recognition gone wrong. I climbed into my bunk and closed my eyes, but the letters remained burned into my vision. Ethan. My name in stars. Impossible. A hallucination. Apophenia. Or real. I must have fallen asleep eventually because I woke to screaming. Not human screaming, something else. High-pitched, oscillating like a siren mixed with an animal shriek. I scrambled down from the bunk, disoriented, banging my elbow on the cabinet. Tyler stumbled out of the rear bedroom, hair wild. "What the fuck is that?" he said. The screaming continued, coming from outside. Marcus wasn't in the RV. I grabbed a flashlight and opened the door. The cold air hit me and the screaming intensified. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, echoing off the mountains. "Marcus!" I shouted. The telescope stood abandoned by the picnic table, eyepiece pointing at the ground. The chairs were knocked over. Marcus's astronomy journal lay open, pages fluttering in the wind. The screaming stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Tyler came out behind me, holding his phone like a weapon. "Where is he?" "Marcus," I called again. We searched the campground. Flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The other RVs and tents were dark. No one emerging to investigate the noise. The ranger station was a quarter-mile away, closed for the night. We found Marcus 20 minutes later, standing at the edge of the campground where it dissolved into open desert. He faced away from us, perfectly still, silhouetted against the stars. "Marcus." Tyler approached cautiously. "Man, you okay? We heard screaming." Marcus didn't respond, didn't move. I circled around to see his face. His eyes were open, reflecting our flashlight beams. His expression was blank. "Marcus, you're scaring us." He blinked, once, twice. Then he smiled. "I'm fine." "What was that screaming?" "Screaming." He looked genuinely confused. I didn't hear any screaming. Tyler and I exchanged glances. "You were just standing here?" I asked, looking at the stars. Marcus gestured upward. "They're beautiful tonight." Dude, you've been gone for like 30 minutes. We were calling your name. 30 minutes? He checked his watch, frowned. No, I just came out here a few minutes ago. Something in his voice was different. The cadence, maybe, or the tone, like someone doing an impression of Marcus but not quite nailing it. Let's go back to the RV, Tyler said. We walked back together, Marcus humming softly. I didn't recognize the tune. At the RV, Marcus went straight to the rear bedroom and closed the door. Tyler and I stood in the galley whispering. That was fucked up, Tyler said. Yeah. He's acting weird. Yeah. Should we drive him to a hospital? Maybe he had a stroke or something. I thought about it. It's a 2-hour drive to the nearest hospital. Let's wait until morning, see how he is. Tyler nodded, but he looked unconvinced. We both tried to sleep, but I don't think either of us managed more than an hour. I kept listening for sounds from the rear bedroom, movement, breathing, anything to confirm Marcus was still Marcus. Morning came slowly. I watched the sky lighten through the RV window, stars fading one by one. When I finally climbed down from the bunk, I found Marcus in the galley making coffee, acting completely normal. Morning, he said cheerfully. Sleep okay? Not really. Yeah, same. I had the weirdest dreams. He poured coffee into 3 mugs. Dreamed I was walking on the salt flats, but they went on forever. Kept walking and walking, never reached the edge. Tyler emerged from the rear bedroom, looking exhausted. How are you feeling, Marcus? Fine. Why? Last night I was stargazing, Marcus interrupted. Same as every night. What's with the interrogation? Tyler looked at me. I shrugged. We had breakfast, cereal and reconstituted orange juice, and tried to act like everything was normal. But Marcus kept humming that same unfamiliar tune, and his eyes seemed darker somehow, like the pupils had expanded. Around 10 a.m., Tyler suggested we drive to Zabriskie Point for photos. Marcus declined. I want to stay here, he said. Work on my observations, you guys go ahead. Tyler and I went alone, taking Tyler's truck. As we drove away, I looked back at the RV. Marcus stood outside, watching us leave. Even from a distance, I could see he was smiling. He's not right, Tyler said once we were on the main road. I know. Should we call someone, his family? And tell them what? That he's acting weird? That he had a temporal blackout? They'll think we're overreacting. Are we? I didn't answer. Zabriskie Point was crowded. Tourists from around the world taking the same photos of the same Badlands formations. We walked the designated path, took our obligatory pictures, and headed back. The whole trip took 3 hours. When we returned to the campground, Marcus was sitting at the picnic table with his journal open, writing furiously, pages and pages of dense text filling margins, cramming words together. Hey, I said, what you working on? He looked up, and for just a moment, I didn't recognize his face. Then he smiled, that strange, too wide smile, and said, Observations. The stars are telling me things. Tyler's hand tightened on my arm. What kind of things? Patterns, connections. The universe is trying to communicate, and I'm finally learning the language. He returned to writing, hand moving rapidly across the page. I leaned over his shoulder to see what he was writing. It wasn't English, or any language I recognized. Symbols and characters that looked almost like letters but weren't, arranged in neat rows, filling every inch of paper. Marcus, that's not... It's the only language that matters. He didn't look up. You'll understand soon, once you see the patterns. Tyler pulled me aside. We need to leave, now. And leave Marcus here alone? He's not Marcus anymore. Don't be ridiculous. But I knew Tyler was right. Whatever had come back from the desert last night, it wore Marcus's face but wasn't Marcus. Couldn't be Marcus. We spent the rest of the day in uneasy proximity. Marcus continued writing in his journal, filling page after page. Tyler and I pretended to read books on our phones, but mostly we watched Marcus, waiting for something to happen. Night fell again. Marcus went outside with his telescope, same as every night. Tyler and I stayed in the RV, doors locked, windows closed despite the stuffiness. "We're leaving tomorrow," Tyler said. "First thing, we'll tell him we got an emergency call, something from work. He'll know we're lying. I don't care." Around midnight, I looked out the window. Marcus stood by the telescope, perfectly still, staring upward. I followed his gaze. The stars had rearranged again. This time the message was longer. "Ethan. Look up. Look up. Ethan." "Jesus Christ," I whispered. Tyler came to the window. "What? Do you see it? The stars?" He squinted at the sky. "See what?" "My name. It's written in stars." "Ethan. Don't say it. Don't say Apophenia. I'm not my sister. This is real." But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Was it real? Or had I inherited Emma's broken pattern recognition, the curse that made connections where none existed? Outside, Marcus began laughing. Tyler and I watched as Marcus walked away from the telescope, arms spread wide, spinning in slow circles, laughing at the sky. The sound echoed across the empty campground, joyless, mechanical laughter. "We need to go now," Tyler said. "Right now." "In the dark?" "I don't care. We can drive to the ranger station, get help, but we're not staying here." I nodded. We grabbed our essentials, wallets, phones, keys, and headed for the door. Tyler reached for the handle. It turned before he could touch it. The door opened, and Marcus stood there, silhouetted against the stars. His smile gleamed in the darkness. "Leaving?" he asked. "But the show is just starting." Tyler tried to push past him. Marcus caught his wrist with impossible speed, fingers digging in. Tyler gasped in pain. "Let him go," I said. Marcus tilted his head, considering. "You see the patterns now, don't you, Ethan? You're starting to understand. The stars are language. The desert is a receiver. Death Valley, why do you think it has that name? Death Valley. The place where death comes down from the sky and writes messages in light." "You're not Marcus," Tyler said through gritted teeth. "I'm more Marcus than Marcus ever was. He spent years looking at the stars, never understanding what they were saying. But I understand. I hear them clearly. They told me about Ethan, about his sister, about the patterns she saw before her mind broke. The patterns were real. She was right." "Let go of my friend," I said. Marcus, the thing wearing Marcus, released Tyler's wrist. "Your friend is already gone. I am your friend now. We're all friends here, under the stars, reading the messages." He stepped into the RV. Tyler and I backed away, into the rear bedroom. Marcus followed slowly, still smiling. "The stars spoke your name, Ethan. Do you know why? Because you're important. You're a pattern recognizer, like your sister. Like me. The stars need people who can read them, who can understand the language. They've been looking for you." "This is insane," Tyler said. "Insanity is refusing to see patterns when they're right in front of you." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out something, a Swiss Army knife, red plastic handle. "The stars want 3. 3 is significant. 3 points make a triangle. 3 eyes make a circle." He moved fast. Tyler tried to dodge, but the confined space gave him nowhere to go. The knife caught him in the shoulder, and he screamed. Blood spread across his shirt, dark and wet. I grabbed Marcus from behind, trying to pull him off Tyler. Marcus elbowed me in the ribs, and pain exploded through my chest. I fell back against the wall, gasping. Marcus stood over Tyler, who was clutching his bleeding shoulder. "Don't worry, this won't hurt much longer. The stars promise. Once you become part of the pattern, the pain stops. You become light. You become language. You become message." "Marcus, stop," I begged. "Please. You're still in there. Fight it." For a moment, just a moment, something flickered across his face. Recognition. Horror. Then it vanished, replaced by that terrible smile. "Marcus is reading the stars now," he said. "Marcus is happy." He raised the knife again. Tyler kicked out, catching Marcus in the knee. Marcus stumbled, I lunged forward, grabbing the knife hand, slamming it against the wall. The knife clattered to the floor. Tyler scrambled past us, blood streaming from his shoulder, heading for the door. Marcus and I grappled in the narrow space. He was stronger than he should be, or I was weaker from fear and lack of sleep. His hands found my throat, squeezing. My vision darkened at the edges. The stars want you, Ethan. They chose you. Don't fight it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Emma's face flashed through my mind. Emma before the accident, smiling, pointing at cloud patterns, telling me about the messages she could see. I drove my thumb into Marcus's eye. He released me with a howl, stumbling back. I grabbed the knife from the floor and ran, bursting through the RV door into the cold night air. Tyler was at his truck, fumbling with his keys, one-handed. "Go!" I shouted. The engine roared to life. I yanked open the passenger door and threw myself inside. Tyler floored it, tires spinning on gravel, and we shot forward down the campground road. In the rearview mirror, I saw Marcus emerge from the RV, standing in the headlight glow, watching us go. Still smiling. We drove in terrified silence to the ranger station, which was blessedly lit. A night ranger came out, took one look at Tyler's bleeding shoulder, and called for an ambulance. We told him everything. The screaming, Marcus's disappearance, the attack, but we didn't mention the stars. We didn't mention the patterns. They found Marcus an hour later, still at the campsite, sitting peacefully at the picnic table. He claimed he didn't remember attacking Tyler, didn't remember anything after going to look at the stars the previous night. The Rangers called for a psychiatric evaluation. Tyler was airlifted to a hospital in Las Vegas for his shoulder wound. I gave my statement to the police, lying about several details. I said Marcus had been acting strange for days before we left San Diego. I said I'd suspected drug use. I didn't mention the stars spelling my name. I didn't mention the patterns. They kept me for questioning most of the next day, then released me. I retrieved Tyler's truck from the ranger station and drove straight to Las Vegas, not stopping, not looking at the sky. Tyler was in surgery. I waited 6 hours in the hospital lounge, drinking terrible coffee, trying not to think. Tyler survived. The knife had missed major arteries. He'd need physical therapy, but would make a full recovery. "I'm never going camping again," he told me when I finally saw him. His shoulder bandaged, his eyes haunted. "Same. What do you think happened to him, to Marcus?" "I don't know. The things he said about the stars, about patterns, about your sister. He was having a psychotic break. That's what the doctor said. But the way he moved, the strength, that wasn't natural. Head trauma can cause all kinds of weird symptoms." Tyler looked at me for a long moment. "Do you believe that?" "I have to." I flew back to San Diego 2 days later. Went straight to my apartment, closed all the blinds, and tried to sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw stars rearranging into letters. I didn't go outside after dark for 3 weeks. Marcus was institutionalized. His parents called me twice asking what happened, asking if I'd noticed anything before the trip. I told them no. Just a sudden onset. No warning. They said the doctors were baffled. Marcus had no history of mental illness, no drugs in his system, no brain abnormalities on the MRI. He just kept insisting he could read the stars, that they were speaking to him, that he'd learned their language. I visited him once. He looked healthy, well-fed, calm. The smile was gone. He seemed like Marcus again, almost. "I'm so sorry," he said, "for hurting Tyler, for scaring you. I don't remember it clearly, but they told me what I did. It wasn't your fault. The stars were so beautiful that night, I couldn't stop looking. And then..." He trailed off, frowning. "There were patterns. I remember patterns." "It's okay. You don't have to..." "No." He grabbed my hand. "You need to understand. The patterns were real. They weren't in my head. They were in the stars. They moved. They spelled things. Marcus, they spelled your name, Ethan. I saw it. Before everything went dark, I saw your name written in stars." I pulled my hand away. The doctor said you had a psychotic episode. Did I? He leaned back, studying me. Or did I see something I wasn't supposed to see? Something that broke my mind because human minds weren't meant to comprehend it? I left without answering. That was 3 months ago. I still don't go outside after dark. I keep my apartment blinds closed. I've considered moving somewhere with perpetual light pollution, New York maybe, or Hong Kong, somewhere the stars are invisible. But I know it wouldn't matter, because 2 nights ago, I looked up. I don't know why. Momentary weakness maybe, or morbid curiosity. I'd been doing well, seeing my therapist twice a week, taking medication for anxiety. Tyler had started talking to me again, though our conversations were strained. Marcus was still institutionalized, but his parents said he was improving, might be released soon. I'd convinced myself it was all explainable. Mass hysteria, shared delusion, trauma response. Then I looked up. I was taking out the trash, a quick trip from my apartment door to the dumpster. Maybe 30 seconds of exposure to the night sky. I'd done it dozens of times without incident, but this time, I looked up. The stars had rearranged, not spelling my name this time, something else. A message. Come back. 2 words, written in points of light across the southern sky, as clear and deliberate as skywriting. Come back. I dropped the trash bag, ran inside, locked the door, called my therapist's emergency line, hyperventilating, trying to explain that the stars were talking to me, that Marcus was right, that the patterns were real. She calmed me down, talked me through breathing exercises, reminded me that pattern recognition is a survival mechanism, but sometimes it misfires. Sometimes we see things that aren't there because our brains are wired to find meaning in chaos. You've been through severe trauma, she said. Your brain is trying to process it. The patterns you're seeing are a manifestation of that trauma. They're not real. They feel real. I know they do. But feeling real and being real are different things. Are they? I've been researching Emma's condition, reading papers on apophenia, on pattern recognition, on the difference between meaningful connections and imaginary ones. The line is thinner than I thought. The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine. We see faces in clouds, hear words in white noise, find constellations in random arrangements of stars. The constellations aren't real. They're imaginary lines connecting distant suns that have no relationship to each other, separated by trillions of miles. We made them up to help navigate, to tell stories, to impose order on chaos. But what if some patterns are real? What if the universe does contain messages and most people are too rational to see them? What if Emma wasn't sick, she was just more sensitive than the rest of us? What if the stars in Death Valley really did spell my name? I'm writing this at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, or Sunday morning. I've lost track. I haven't slept in 36 hours. Every time I close my eyes, I see Marcus's smile. I hear him saying, "The stars want you." Do they? I keep thinking about Death Valley, the lowest point in North America, the hottest place on Earth, a location so extreme that most things can't survive there. Maybe that's why. Maybe the stars need somewhere devoid of life, somewhere stripped down to bare rock and sand, to send their messages. Maybe that's why they chose Death Valley. Maybe that's why they chose us. Tyler texted me yesterday, "Don't do it." I haven't responded. How did he know I was thinking about going back? Marcus's parents called this morning. He escaped from the facility last night. They have no idea where he went, but I know. I know exactly where he went. Back to the desert, back to read the stars. And the terrible thing, the thing I can't tell my therapist, can't tell Tyler, can't tell anyone, is that I want to go too. I want to see if the stars are still spelling my name. I want to understand the language Marcus learned. I want to know if Emma was right all along. The RV is parked at a storage facility 10 miles from here. Marcus left the keys with me, before everything happened. "In case of emergency," he said. Is this an emergency? I'm looking at those keys right now. They're sitting on my desk next to my laptop, and I keep reaching for them, then pulling back, then reaching again. The rational part of my brain, the therapist-approved, medication-compliant part, says, This is suicidal ideation. Says I'm being pulled toward the source of my trauma because trauma is like that. It draws you back, makes you want to relive it, to master it, to somehow rewrite the ending. But the other part of my brain, the part that saw my name in stars, that heard Marcus speak truths he shouldn't have known, that recognizes patterns, says something different. It says the stars are waiting. It says I was chosen for a reason. It says Emma saw the truth before anyone else, and her only mistake was not being strong enough to handle it. I think about her every day. My little sister who saw connections no one else could see, who tried to explain that the world was speaking to her in a language only she understood. We called it delusion. We called it mental illness. We put her in therapy, gave her medication, tried to make her stop seeing the patterns. What if we should have been helping her read them instead? It's 4 a.m. now. The storage facility opens at 6. I could drive there, get the RV, be on the road by 7. Death Valley is 6 hours away. I'd arrive in the early afternoon, have plenty of time to set up before dark, before the stars come out. I'm not going to call anyone, not Tyler, not my therapist, not the police. This is something I need to do alone, need to verify, need to prove, either to myself or to the universe that I'm not losing my mind like Emma did. Or maybe I am losing my mind. Maybe this entire document is evidence of my deterioration, a record of my descent into the same abyss that swallowed my sister. Maybe someone will find this later and say, "Poor Ethan, we should have seen the signs." But I don't think so. I think the stars spelled my name for a reason. I think Marcus understood something profound before his mind broke. I think Death Valley is calling me back, and this time I'm going to answer. The keys are in my hand now. They feel heavier than they should, like they're weighted with significance. I'm going to finish writing this. I'm going to upload it to cloud storage, just in case. Then I'm going to drive to the storage facility, get the RV, and head east toward the desert. If you're reading this, it means I didn't come back. Or I came back wrong, like Marcus did. Or maybe I came back understanding things that can't be explained to people who haven't read the stars. Tyler was right to be scared. My therapist is right to worry. The patterns might be destroying me, but they might also be revealing something true. The only way to know is to look up. The sun is rising now. I can see light through the cracks in my blinds. I'm going to leave before I lose my nerve. Death Valley is waiting. The stars are waiting. Whatever spelled my name in points of light across the October sky, whether it's a message from the universe or a message from my own fractured mind, I'm going to find out. I'm going back to the lowest place on Earth. And this time, I'm going to keep my eyes open. This time, I'm going to read what the stars have to say. This document was recovered from Ethan Brooks's laptop on December 3, 2024, 3 weeks after his vehicle was found abandoned at Furnace Creek Campground in Death Valley National Park. No trace of Brooks has been found. The search is ongoing. Marcus Chen was found wandering in the same area 2 days after Brooks disappeared. He claims no memory of the preceding 3 months. His condition has stabilized and he has been released to his family's care. Tyler Morrison has declined all requests for interviews. Emma Brooks passed away on November 28, 2024, of complications from pneumonia. According to facility staff, her last words were, "He's going to understand now. Tell Ethan I was right about the patterns." Death Valley remains open to visitors. The stars remain unchanged. Or so we're told. My name is Jacob Turner. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, while the details are sharp enough to hurt. This happened 3 weeks ago in Ocala National Forest, Florida. I'm writing from a motel room in Tallahassee, and I've checked the parking lot 6 times in the last hour. I keep the lights on. All of them. The trip was Marcus's idea. He'd bought this used RV off Craigslist, a 1987 Winnebago Chieftain that smelled like cigarettes and pine air freshener. He was proud of it. Sarah and I had our doubts, but Marcus had this way of making terrible ideas sound reasonable. "Come on," he'd said. "When's the last time we did something spontaneous? We're not getting any younger." We were all 32. Marcus worked in IT. Sarah was a high school math teacher. I sold insurance. Our lives were boring and predictable, which is exactly how I liked them. But I said yes anyway because that's what you do for friends you've known since college. We left on a Thursday morning in late September. The drive from Orlando took about 2 hours. Marcus played the same Spotify playlist on repeat, classic rock mostly. Sarah sat in the passenger seat reading a paperback thriller. I was in the back, watching pine trees blur past the window and trying not to think about how much time I was taking off work. The campground was called Silver Glen Springs, tucked deep in the forest off State Road 19. The ranger at the entrance gate was a woman in her 50s with sun-damaged skin and a radio clipped to her belt. She barely looked at us. "Site 47, she said, handing Marcus a map. "Fire ban's been lifted as of yesterday. Keep your fire contained. Check out Sunday at 11. Marcus thanked her. She didn't respond. The campsite was isolated, which Marcus loved and I immediately hated. The nearest occupied site was at least a quarter-mile away. Our spot backed up against thick scrub forest, palmetto bushes and slash pines and live oaks draped with Spanish moss. There was a concrete fire ring and a weathered picnic table. That was it. "Perfect," Marcus said, killing the engine. "Total privacy." Sarah looked at me. I could tell she was thinking the same thing I was, that privacy out here didn't feel like a luxury. It felt like vulnerability. We spent the first few hours setting up. Marcus backed the RV onto the gravel pad. Sarah and I unfolded camping chairs and arranged them around the fire pit. The sun was still high and hot. Humidity made everything stick to your skin. I kept swatting at mosquitoes. "This is exactly what we needed," Marcus said, cracking open a beer from the cooler. "No cell service, no Wi-Fi, no bullshit." He was right about the no cell service part. I'd checked my phone twice, 0 bars. I'm not proud of how anxious that made me feel. That first evening was fine, normal. We built a fire as the sun went down. Marcus insisted on doing it himself, arranging kindling and logs with the precision of someone who'd watched too many YouTube tutorials. The fire caught quickly. We roasted hot dogs on sticks and drank cheap beer and told the same stories we'd been telling for 10 years. Around 9 o'clock, Marcus went inside the RV to find his phone charger, even though there was nowhere to charge it. Sarah and I stayed by the fire. The woods were loud with insects and frogs. I remember thinking how alive the forest sounded, how different from the city. "You okay?" Sarah asked. "Yeah." "Why?" "You seem tense." "I'm fine." She didn't push it. That was one of the things I liked about Sarah. She knew when to leave things alone. When we decided to turn in around 11, Marcus doused the fire. I watched him pour half a gallon of water from our jug onto the flames. Steam hissed up into the darkness. He stirred the ashes with a stick, making sure everything was out. Then he poured more water just to be safe. "Fire safety champion over here," Sarah said. Marcus grinned. "Can't be too careful in a tinderbox like this." We went inside the RV. Sarah took the bed in the back. Marcus got the fold-out couch. I was stuck with the dinette that converted into a narrow bunk. None of us complained. We were tired and beer-drunk and ready to sleep. I must have dozed off quickly because the next thing I remember is waking up to Marcus's voice. Jake, wake up." I opened my eyes. Marcus was standing over me, silhouetted by the window. Gray pre-dawn light filtered through the blinds. "What time is it?" I asked. "Like 5:30. Come outside for a second." "Why?" "Just come on." I followed him out, still half asleep. The air was cooler than I expected. My breath fogged slightly, and that's when I saw it. The fire pit was burning again. Not embers, not a few surviving coals. A full fire, flames reaching 2 feet high, crackling and popping like we'd just lit it. "What the hell?" I said. That's what I said. We stood there staring at it. I walked closer, feeling the heat on my face. The logs from last night were arranged differently than I remembered. Neater somehow, more intentional. "Did you relight this?" I asked. "No. Jesus, no. I just came out to take a piss and saw it burning. Maybe some coal survived. Jake, I drowned that thing, you saw me. He wasn't wrong. I'd watched him pour water until the fire ring was basically a mud puddle. Maybe someone else is messing with us, I said. Marcus looked around at the empty campground. Who? I didn't have an answer. We put the fire out again, or tried to. Marcus used the rest of our water jug. I kicked dirt over it. We waited until we couldn't see any smoke or glow. Then we went back inside and agreed not to tell Sarah yet. No point in freaking her out over something we didn't understand. She was still asleep when we came back in. Marcus climbed back into his bed. I lay on the dinette bunk and stared at the ceiling, listening to my heart beat too fast. I didn't sleep again. By the time Sarah woke up around 8, I'd convinced myself that there was a rational explanation. Maybe the wood we'd used was particularly good at retaining heat. Maybe the wind had fanned some hidden embers. These things happened. We made coffee on the camp stove and ate granola bars. Sarah complained about how terrible she'd slept, said she kept having weird dreams about being lost in the woods. Marcus and I exchanged a look but didn't mention the fire. What do you guys want to do today? Sarah asked. There's supposed to be a spring nearby where you can swim. Sounds good, Marcus said, but we never made it to the spring. Around 10 o'clock, Marcus decided he wanted to check if his phone was getting any signal. He walked about 50 yards from camp, holding his phone above his head like an idiot. Sarah and I sat in our chairs reading and trying to enjoy the morning. I'm going to walk to the bathhouse, Sarah said after a while. You coming? I'm good. She left. I kept reading my book, a legal thriller I'd been working through for 2 months. I wasn't really absorbing the words. My mind kept drifting back to the fire. The way the flames had looked almost eager, like they'd been waiting for us to notice. Marcus came back 10 minutes later, frustrated, no signal anywhere. It's like the forest is actively blocking it, he said. That's not how cell towers work. I know that, I'm just saying it's weird. Sarah returned from the bathhouse with a strange expression. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing, just... There was a woman in there. She asked me if we'd seen her son. What did you tell her? That we hadn't seen anyone, she just kept staring at me. Then she left without washing her hands or anything. It was bizarre. Marcus shrugged. Lots of weird people go camping. The day passed slowly. We played cards, we ate sandwiches. We tried to have the kind of relaxing outdoor experience we'd driven here for. But there was a tension now, unspoken but present. Every small sound from the woods made me turn my head. I kept thinking about that fire. Around 4 in the afternoon, Marcus wanted to gather more firewood for the evening. I don't think we should have another fire, I said. Why not? Because of this morning. Something's not right. It's camping, Jake. We're supposed to have a fire. That's literally the whole point. Sarah sided with Marcus, 2 against 1. So we gathered wood from the area around our site, fallen branches and logs, nothing too thick. Marcus arranged them in the pit with the same careful precision as before. When dusk came, he lit it. The fire caught immediately, burning bright and hot. We sat around it like the night before, drinking beers and pretending everything was normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Multiple times I turned around, expecting to see someone standing at the edge of the firelight. There was never anyone there. Around 8 o'clock, Sarah went inside to use the bathroom. Marcus and I sat in silence, watching the flames. You feel it too, don't you? He said finally. Feel what? That something's off. I nodded. There was no point in denying it. I want to leave tomorrow, Marcus said. Cut the trip short. This place is getting to me. Yeah, good idea. Sarah came back out. We didn't mention our conversation. We sat by the fire for another hour, speaking less and less as the night deepened around us. The insects had gone quiet. I realized this slowly, then all at once. The forest that had been so loud the night before was now utterly silent. Where'd all the bugs go? Sarah asked. voicing what I was thinking. None of us had an answer. At 10:30, we put the fire out. Marcus used 3 gallons of water this time, then covered everything with dirt and gravel from around the site. He was thorough, obsessive even. When he finished, you couldn't even tell there'd been a fire there. "That should do it," he said, but he didn't sound convinced. We went inside. The RV felt smaller than before, the walls closer. I volunteered to take first watch, even though I didn't call it that. I just said I wasn't tired yet and I'd stay up reading for a while. Marcus and Sarah went to their respective beds. I sat at the dinette with a flashlight and my book, not reading, just listening. The RV creaked and settled. Wind moved through the pines outside. Normal sounds. Ordinary sounds. At 11:47 p.m., I remember checking my watch. I heard footsteps outside. Not animal footsteps. Human. Slow and deliberate, circling the RV. I put down my book and held very still, barely breathing. The footsteps stopped at the door. I waited for a knock that never came. After what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds, the footsteps resumed, moving away from the RV toward the fire pit. I crept to the window and looked out through the blinds. The fire was burning again. This time I didn't wake the others. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside alone. The night air was cold now, much colder than it should have been. I could see my breath. I walked toward the fire pit, sweeping the flashlight beam across the campsite. No one was there, but the fire was roaring, flames reaching 4 feet high, logs arranged in a structure I knew we hadn't built. They formed a kind of teepee shape, perfectly balanced. I stood there watching it burn, trying to understand. My mind kept offering explanations that didn't make sense. Spontaneous combustion, underground gas pockets, pranksters with night vision goggles. Then I noticed the smell. Not wood smoke, something else underneath it. Bitter and organic like burning hair. I should have woken Marcus and Sarah. I should have gotten in the RV and driven away right then. But I didn't. I stood there and watched the fire burn, hypnotized by its movement, by the way the flame seemed to dance with purpose rather than chaos. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough that I didn't hear Marcus come outside. "Jake?" I turned. He was behind me in his boxer shorts and a t-shirt, looking confused and scared. "It came back," I said. "I see that." We both stared at the fire. Neither of us moved to put it out. "We should leave now," Marcus said. "Forget tomorrow. We leave right now." "Okay." We went to wake Sarah, but she wasn't in the RV. Her bed was empty, covers thrown back. We called her name. We searched the small space twice, opening every cabinet and closet like she might be hiding. She wasn't there. "Maybe she went to the bathhouse," I said. "In the middle of the night? Where else would she go?" Marcus grabbed his flashlight and we went outside. The fire was still burning. We called Sarah's name into the darkness of the forest. No response. The silence that had settled over the campground earlier was now absolute. Even the wind had stopped. "We have to find her," Marcus said. We split up. Stupid, I know, but we weren't thinking clearly. Marcus headed toward the bathhouse. I took the trail that led deeper into the campground past the other sites. Most were empty this time of year. I called Sarah's name over and over, my voice getting hoarser. At Site 32, I found her jacket hung on a tree branch. Just her jacket, navy blue fleece, arms spread like a scarecrow. I took it down and shouted for Marcus. He came running from the direction of the bathhouse. "She's not there," he said, breathing hard. Then he saw the jacket. "Where'd you find that?" "Hanging here." "Why would she take off her jacket?" "I don't know." We kept searching. We must have walked for an hour, covering every path and trail near our site. We found nothing else. No sign of her, no footprints, nothing. As we made our way back to the RV, I realized I could smell that bitter burning smell again, stronger now. Marcus noticed it too. "What is that?" he asked. We rounded the corner and saw our campsite. The fire had spread. Flames were everywhere. In the fire pit, yes, but also in a ring around the RV, in small piles 20 feet apart, creating a perfect circle of fire. But the grass wasn't burning. The fires just sat there, on top of the ground, burning without consuming anything. "This isn't possible," Marcus whispered. We stood outside the circle, too afraid to cross through it. The RV was trapped inside, along with all our gear, our phones, our keys. "Sarah!" Marcus screamed into the darkness. "Sarah, where are you?" A sound came from the woods behind us. Footsteps, slow and uneven. We spun around, flashlights raised. Sarah emerged from between two trees. The relief I felt lasted maybe half a second before I realized something was wrong. She was walking strangely, like her joints didn't quite work right. Her face was slack, expressionless, and her eyes didn't blink. "Sarah," Marcus said. "Jesus Christ, where have you been?" She didn't answer. She just kept walking toward us with that weird, jerky gait. As she got closer, I could see that her pupils were dilated so wide her eyes looked completely black. "Something's wrong with her," I said. "No shit. Sarah, can you hear me?" She stopped about 10 feet away. For a long moment, she just stared at us. Then her mouth opened and she spoke. But the voice wasn't hers. It was deeper, rougher, like gravel sliding down a pipe. "The fire needs to burn," she said. Marcus and I looked at each other. I felt something cold settle into my stomach. "Sarah, you're scaring me," Marcus said. "What happened to you?" "The fire needs to burn," she repeated in that same wrong voice. "You have to feed it." "Feed it what?" I asked, though I didn't want to know the answer. She smiled then. I'll never forget that smile. It wasn't Sarah's smile. It used her mouth but belonged to something else. "Come home," she said, reaching toward us. "Come home to the fire." Marcus grabbed my arm. "Run." We ran. Not toward the RV, that was blocked by the circle of flames, but away, deeper into the campground. Behind us, I could hear Sarah following. Not running, just walking with those stilted steps, but somehow keeping pace with us. We ran until we hit the main road that cut through the forest. Gravel crunched under our feet. I looked back and saw Sarah maybe 40 yards behind us, still coming, still wearing that terrible smile. "The ranger station," Marcus gasped. "We need help." We ran toward the entrance gate. It felt like miles, but was probably less than one. My lungs burned. My legs felt like water. When we finally saw the small wooden building with its lights on, I wanted to cry with relief. Marcus pounded on the door. "Hello, we need help, please." The door opened. The same ranger from when we'd checked in stood there looking at us without surprise or concern. "Our friend," Marcus said, breathing hard. "Something's wrong with her. She's been touched by the old fire," the ranger finished. Her voice was flat. "Happens sometimes." What are you talking about?" "The fire that won't die. Been burning in these woods longer than the trees. People like to pretend it's not there, but it is. Always has been." I felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. "You need to help us," I said. "Call the police, an ambulance, something." "Can't help," she said. "Fire takes what it wants. Usually just one per group if you're lucky. One to feed the flames." Marcus shoved past her into the ranger station. I followed. There was a desk, a computer, a radio. Marcus grabbed the radio transmitter. "This is an emergency," he said into it. "We're at Silver Glen Springs Campground. Our friend is static, just static." He tried again. Same result. The ranger watched from the doorway. "Won't work. Not tonight. Fire's hungry." "You're insane," Marcus said. "You're fucking insane." "Maybe, but I'm alive, unlike what your friend's about to become." We heard footsteps on the gravel outside. Slow, methodical, coming closer. "She's here," the ranger said, and shut herself in a back room. We heard a lock click. Marcus and I pressed ourselves against the wall beside the door. Through the window, I could see Sarah's silhouette approaching. She was humming something, a tune I didn't recognize. "We can't let her in," I whispered. "I know." But we didn't have a choice. Sarah, or whatever was wearing Sarah, stopped at the door. For a minute, nothing happened. Then the door handle started to turn. It was locked. We'd locked it when we came in, but the handle kept turning anyway, metal grinding against metal. The lock clicked open by itself. The door swung wide. Sarah stood in the doorway, backlit by the moon. That smile was still on her face. "Don't you want to come home?" she asked in that gravel voice. "The fire misses you. It knows you. It's been waiting." "Stay back," Marcus said, though he didn't sound commanding. He sounded terrified. "I remember you," she said, focusing on Marcus. "From before. From when you were here last." "I've never been here before." "Not this you. The other you, 10 years ago. You came with different friends. You made the fire angry. You put it out wrong." Marcus's face went white. I looked at him and saw the truth there. He had been here before. He'd lied about this being his first time. "Marcus," I said. "It was just a weekend trip," he said quietly. "College, spring break. We got drunk and we burned some stuff, stupid stuff, someone's wallet, some photos. We thought it was funny." "You burned offerings meant for something else," Sarah said. "The fire remembers. The fire wants payment." She stepped into the ranger station. Marcus and I backed toward the rear door where the ranger had disappeared. I tried the handle. Locked. "Please," Marcus said to Sarah. "If you're still in there, please fight it. We can help you." "She's gone," the thing in Sarah said. "She went into the smoke, but I can bring her back if you give me what I need." "What do you need?" I asked, though I already knew. "One of you. Come home to the fire. Let it burn through you. Then she can come back." Marcus looked at me. In his eyes, I saw him calculating, weighing his life against Sarah's, against mine. I saw the moment he made his decision. He lunged at me. We crashed to the floor, grappling. He was stronger than me, always had been. He got on top of me, hands reaching for my throat. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry, Jake. But it has to be someone." I couldn't breathe. My vision started to tunnel. Sarah watched from above, smiling that horrible smile. Then the ranger's door burst open. She had a fire extinguisher in her hands. She sprayed it directly in Marcus's face. He fell backward, coughing and clawing at his eyes. "Go," she said to me. "Out the back. There's a trail. Follow it east. Don't stop until you see the highway." "What about—" "They're already gone. Both of them. Fire's got them. You run, maybe you get lucky." I ran. Out the back door, into the woods, following a trail I could barely see. Behind me I heard Marcus screaming. Then I heard Sarah's voice, still wrong, chanting something I couldn't understand. I ran until my legs gave out. Then I walked. Then I crawled. The forest was alive with orange light, like dawn was breaking in every direction at once. Flames flickered between the trees, small fires appearing and disappearing, tracking my movement. When I finally hit the highway, a trucker picked me up. I must have looked insane, covered in dirt, bleeding from scratches I didn't remember getting, babbling about fires that wouldn't die. He drove me to a hospital in Ocala. They kept me for 3 days. Psychiatric evaluation, they called it. I told them everything and they nodded and wrote notes and eventually let me go. The police investigated. They found our RV at Site 47. Sarah's body was inside, dead from smoke inhalation. Marcus's body was in the ranger station. The official report said he'd had a psychotic break, killed Sarah, then killed himself. The ranger backed up this story. She said she'd tried to stop him but couldn't. The case closed. Sarah's parents buried her. Marcus's family had him cremated. I was listed as a witness who was lucky to escape, but I know what happened. I know what I saw, and here's the thing that keeps me awake every night. 3 days ago, my apartment building had a fire alarm. We all evacuated to the parking lot while the fire department checked for the problem. False alarm, they said. Faulty wiring in the basement. But when I went back inside, there was a fire burning in my sink. Just a small one, flames dancing on top of the stainless steel where no fuel should exist. I poured water on it, it went out. This morning I woke up and the fire was back. Same spot, same dancing flames. I put it out again with water and baking soda and anything I could find. 2 hours ago I checked my kitchen. The fire was burning again. I'm in this motel now because I had to leave, but I can smell smoke. It's faint, just a trace, but it's there. Coming from under the bathroom door maybe, or through the vents. I don't want to check. I keep thinking about what the ranger said. Fire takes what it wants, usually just one per group. Usually, not always. Maybe it wasn't satisfied. Maybe Marcus wasn't enough payment for whatever he'd done 10 years ago. Maybe the fire's still hungry. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what really happened. If you're reading this, and if I'm gone, you'll understand why. The smoke smell is getting stronger. I need to check the bathroom, but I'm afraid of what I'll find. There's no fuel in there, no reason for fire, but I know it's there anyway, burning on the tile, waiting for me to notice. I can hear it crackling. In a minute, I'm going to open that door. I'm going to see the flames, and I'm going to try to put them out again, even though I know it won't work, even though I know the fire always comes back. The fire needs to burn, and I think I finally understand what that means. My name is Rachel Miller. I look in the mirror and see claws instead of fingers, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, when my hands were still my own. We arrived at Ocala National Forest on a Thursday afternoon in late September. The RV rental place in Gainesville had given us a 32-footer that smelled like air freshener and old cigarettes, and Maya drove it like she was afraid it would fall apart if she went over 30 miles per hour. Her boyfriend Jake navigated from the passenger seat, squinting at his phone every few minutes and announcing we were definitely still on track. I sat in the back, watching pine trees blur past the window. The forest grew denser the farther we got from the highway. Long-needled pines gave way to scrub oaks and palmettos, then to darker, thicker woods I couldn't name. Spanish moss hung from the branches like gray hair. "This is going to be amazing," Maya said, catching my eye in the rearview mirror. 3 days of absolutely nothing. No work emails, no deadlines, just us and nature. "And this beast," Jake added, patting the RV's dashboard. "Climate control, a real bed, running water. This is how you camp." I smiled but didn't answer. I'd been feeling off all week, nothing I could point to exactly, just a low-level wrongness that sat in my stomach like spoiled food. My doctor had said it was probably stress. "You're 32 years old and you work 60 hours a week," she'd said. "Your body is telling you to slow down." So when Maya suggested this trip, I'd agreed. Getting away seemed like the right idea. The campground was smaller than I expected. A dozen RV sites arranged in a rough circle around a fire pit and a bathhouse. Most of the spots were empty. We parked at Site 7, the farthest from the entrance. Trees pressed in close on 3 sides. "Perfect," Jake said, killing the engine. Privacy. The site came with a picnic table and a metal fire ring. Jake set about hooking up the RV's utilities while Maya and I walked to the bathhouse. It was a cinder block building with peeling paint and a door that didn't quite close. Inside, 2 sinks with cracked mirrors, 2 toilet stalls, and 2 shower stalls with moldy curtains. "Rustic," Maya said. "You're the one who wanted nature." She laughed. "Yeah, well, at least the RV has a bathroom. We won't have to use this unless we're desperate." Back at the site, Jake had succeeded in getting the hookups working. He cracked 3 beers from the cooler and we sat at the picnic table, listening to the forest. Birds I couldn't identify called from the canopy. Something rustled in the underbrush. The air smelled like pine sap and something else, something organic and damp. "To getting away," Maya said, raising her beer. We clinked bottles. That first evening passed quietly. Jake built a fire as the sun went down. We cooked hot dogs on sticks and talked about nothing important. Maya's terrible boss, Jake's fantasy football league, my mother's ongoing renovation project. Normal things. The kind of conversation you have when you're trying not to think about work or bills or the fact that you're 32 and still not sure what you want to do with your life. Around 9, Maya yawned. I'm beat. All that driving. I'll stay up a bit, I said. Finish my beer. They went inside. I heard the RV door lock, then voices murmuring as they got ready for bed. I sat alone by the fire, watching the flames. The forest around me had grown completely dark. No moon. No stars visible through the canopy. Just the fire's light creating a small circle of visibility, and beyond that, absolute blackness. That's when I heard it. A sound like nothing I'd ever heard before. Not quite animal, not quite human. A wet, clicking noise that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I stood up, heart suddenly racing. Hello? Silence. The fire popped. I realized I was gripping my beer bottle hard enough that my knuckles ached. Just an animal, I said out loud, because saying it made it feel more true. I went inside. The RV's interior was warm and well lit. Jake snored from the bedroom in back. Maya had left the bathroom light on for me. I brushed my teeth, changed into pajamas, and climbed into the fold-out bed over the cab. Through the small window, I could see the fire dying down to embers. I didn't sleep well. Every time I started to drift off, I'd jerk awake, convinced I'd heard that clicking sound again. But in the RV's humming silence, I couldn't be sure if the noises were real or if my brain was making them up. Morning came gray and humid. I woke to Maya banging around in the kitchenette making coffee. My mouth felt strange, like I'd been chewing on aluminum foil. When I climbed down from the cab, my legs felt unsteady. You look terrible, Maya said, handing me a mug. Didn't sleep great. Yeah, I heard you tossing around up there. You okay? Fine, just adjusting. Jake emerged from the bedroom, yawning. What's the plan? There's a trail about a mile north. Ranger at the entrance said it's an easy loop, maybe 3 hours. Perfect, Maya said. Rachel, you up for it? I nodded, though the thought of walking for 3 hours made me tired. My coffee tasted wrong, too. Bitter in a way that coated my tongue. We set out after breakfast. The trail was clearly marked, a narrow path through dense forest. Jake led the way, Maya in the middle, me bringing up the rear. The morning was already hot, humidity making the air feel thick. Mosquitoes whined around my ears. About 30 minutes in, Jake's phone beeped. He pulled it out, frowning. That's weird. What? Maya asked. My GPS just jumped. Says we're 2 miles north of where we should be. Maybe there's no signal out here. Maybe. But I'd noticed something else. The trail behind us looked different than the trail ahead. The trees were spaced differently. The undergrowth was thicker. It was like we'd somehow stepped from one forest into another without noticing the transition. Does this path seem right to you? I asked. Maya glanced back. What do you mean? I don't know. It just looks different. Jake checked his phone again. Still jumping around, useless. He pocketed it. We'll just follow the markers. They wouldn't put us on a trail that goes nowhere. We kept walking. The forest pressed in closer. The path narrowed until we had to walk single file, branches scraping against our arms. I noticed that I was sweating more than usual. My shirt was soaked through, and my hands felt strange, tingling like they'd fallen asleep. I held them up, flexing my fingers. They looked normal, but the tingling wouldn't stop. You guys feel that? I asked. Feel what? Maya said without turning around. Never mind. The trail finally opened into a small clearing. In the center sat a massive oak tree, its trunk easily 10 feet across. Carved into the bark were symbols I didn't recognize. Not letters exactly, but shapes that seemed to mean something. Looking at them made my head hurt. What the hell? Jake said, walking closer. Don't touch it, I said, surprising myself with the urgency in my voice. He looked back at me. Why not? I don't know, just don't. Maya was studying the carvings. These look old, like really old. Probably Creek or Seminole, right? This area has a lot of indigenous history. Maybe. But I didn't think they were indigenous carvings. They looked too deliberate, too geometric, and they seemed to pulse slightly, like they were breathing. Let's keep moving, I said. We did. But as we left the clearing, I glanced back. For just a moment, I could have sworn I saw someone standing by the tree. A figure, tall and thin, watching us. But when I blinked, there was nothing there. The trail looped back to the campground. By the time we arrived, it was early afternoon. I felt exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the walk. My bones ached, my skin felt too tight. I'm going to lie down, I said. You sure you're okay? Maya asked, concerned now. Yeah, just tired. Inside the RV, I collapsed onto the bed. The tingling in my hands had spread up my arms. When I closed my eyes, I saw the symbols from the tree, glowing against the darkness of my eyelids. They seemed to be rearranging themselves, forming new patterns. I must have fallen asleep because when I opened my eyes, it was dark outside and Maya was shaking my shoulder. Rachel, wake up. I sat up, disoriented. What time is it? Almost 8. You've been asleep for like 5 hours. Are you feeling okay? You were making weird noises. What kind of noises? She hesitated, like clicking. It was really creepy. My stomach dropped. The same sound I'd heard in the forest last night. I'm fine, I said, though I wasn't sure that was true. Just a weird dream. We ate dinner outside, sandwiches and chips, nothing fancy. Jake built another fire. The flames danced, casting strange shadows on the trees around us. I kept my hands in my lap, hidden, because I'd noticed something new. The skin on my fingertips looked different, thicker, almost scaly. So apparently there's another RV supposed to come in tonight, Jake said. Ranger mentioned it when I went to the bathhouse, some family from Georgia. More the merrier, Maya said, but no one came. By 10 o'clock, we were still alone in the campground. Maybe they canceled, Maya said. Maybe. I went to the bathhouse to brush my teeth. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered. In the cracked mirror, my reflection looked wrong. My eyes seemed darker. My face was thinner, more angular. I leaned closer, studying myself. Was that a scale on my cheek? No, just a trick of the light. But when I ran my tongue over my teeth, they felt sharper. I hurried back to the RV. Maya and Jake were already in bed. I climbed into my bunk and lay there staring at the ceiling. My hands wouldn't stop tingling. I held them up in the darkness, flexing my fingers. In the dim light from the window, I could see that my fingernails looked longer, thicker, almost like... No. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. But every time I started to drift off, I'd see those symbols again. And now they seemed to be writing themselves onto my skin, invisible ink that only I could read. Sometime in the middle of the night, I got up. I don't remember deciding to do it. One moment I was in bed, and the next I was standing outside in my bare feet, wearing only my pajamas. The fire had gone out. The forest was completely silent. I walked toward the trees. The clicking sound was back, louder now. It seemed to be calling me. With each step, I felt more awake, more alert. My senses felt sharper. I could smell things I'd never noticed before. The mineral scent of the soil, the sweet decay of rotting logs, something else underneath it all, something ancient and patient. At the edge of the clearing, I stopped. The trees ahead seemed to form a tunnel, branches intertwining overhead. In the darkness, I could see movement, shapes that weren't quite animal, not quite human. One of them stepped forward into the dim starlight that filtered through the canopy. It looked like Jake, but it wasn't Jake. The proportions were wrong. The arms were too long. The joints bent at angles that shouldn't be possible. And when it opened its mouth, that clicking sound emerged. I should have been terrified. I should have run. But instead, I felt a strange sense of recognition, like I was looking at something familiar. something I'd known my whole life but had forgotten. The not Jake tilted its head, studying me. Then it reached out one hand, a hand that ended in claws, long and curved like a bird's talons. I reached back. Our fingers touched. Pain shot through my arm like electricity. I gasped, stumbled backward, and suddenly I was back in control of my body. I ran, crashed through the underbrush, branches tearing at my pajamas, roots trying to trip me. Behind me I could hear clicking sounds, multiple sources now coming from different directions. I burst into the campground and threw myself at the RV door. It was locked. I pounded on it, screaming, "Maya, Jake, let me in." The door flew open. Jake stood there shirtless, eyes wide. "What the hell? Rachel, what are you doing?" I pushed past him, gasping for breath. Maya sat up in bed, confused and frightened. "I went outside," I said. "There's something out there." "What kind of something?" Jake asked, moving to the window. "I don't know. It looked like you, but it wasn't you." They exchanged a glance. "Rachel," Maya said carefully, "maybe you were sleepwalking. You've been really tired." I wasn't asleep, I saw it, and it reached out to me, and when we touched, I held up my hand. In the RV's light, the changes were unmistakable now. My fingernails had grown at least an inch. They curved into points. The skin on my fingers had taken on a gray-green tint, with patterns like scales visible just beneath the surface. Maya's face went pale. "What the fuck?" "I don't know," I whispered. "Something's wrong with me." Jake grabbed my hand, turning it over. The scales continued up my wrist, disappearing under my pajama sleeve. When he pulled the sleeve back, we could see they went halfway up my forearm. "We need to get you to a hospital," he said. "In the middle of the night? We're an hour from anywhere." Then first thing in the morning. "Jesus, Rachel, this isn't normal." "You think I don't know that?" Maya came over, took my other hand. Her touch felt strange against my transformed skin. "Does it hurt?" "No. It tingles, but it doesn't hurt. That's what scares me. It should hurt, right? Something like this should hurt." None of us slept after that. We sat in the kitchenette, lights blazing, while Jake tried to get a signal on his phone. No luck. The GPS kept jumping around, showing us in different locations, sometimes miles apart, when we weren't moving at all. "What the hell is going on?" Maya said. I told them about the symbols on the tree, about seeing the figure in the clearing, about the not Jake in the forest. As I spoke, I could see them trying to decide whether to believe me or whether I was having some kind of breakdown. "Let's just say you're right," Jake said finally. "Let's say there's something weird happening here, some kind of environmental contamination or, I don't know, weird chemical in the water. We pack up and leave. Right now. It's 3 in the morning, Maya said. So, we'll drive slow. Get back to Gainesville, take Rachel to the ER, let them figure out what's wrong." It seemed like a good plan. We all got dressed, started packing up. Jake went outside to disconnect the hookups. Through the window, I watched him work, checking the darkness around him constantly. That's when Maya noticed. "Rachel, you're back." I turned to look at her. She was staring at my shirt, her face horrified. "What?" "Take off your shirt." I did. Maya held up her phone, using it as a mirror. On my back, running down my spine, were more scales. They formed a ridge, like the beginnings of a dorsal fin or a crest. And as I watched, one of the scales lifted slightly, then settled back down. They were breathing. "Oh God," I whispered. Maya grabbed my shoulders, her eyes filling with tears. "We'll fix this. Whatever this is, we'll fix it. You're going to be fine." But we both knew that was a lie. Jake came back inside. "All set. Let's..." He stopped when he saw my back. "Fuck. Okay. We're leaving now." He climbed into the driver's seat. The engine turned over once, twice, then nothing. He tried again. Same result. "What's wrong?" Maya asked. "I don't know. It was fine earlier." He popped the hood, grabbed a flashlight, went back outside. Maya and I followed. The RV's engine looked like someone had taken it apart and put it back together wrong. Hoses were disconnected. Wires hung loose. It was like someone had deliberately sabotaged it. "That's impossible," Jake said. "I just checked everything 2 hours ago. It was fine." "Maybe it was them," I said, "and them who?" "The things in the forest. Maybe they don't want us to leave." Jake shook his head. "That's crazy. That's not how the world works." But his voice lacked conviction. He'd seen my hands, my back. He knew something impossible was happening. "Can you fix it?" Maya asked. "I don't know. Maybe. But not in the dark. I need daylight." So we went back inside, locked the doors, turned on every light, and waited for morning. I sat at the table, studying my hands. The scales were spreading. They'd reached my elbows now, and I could feel something happening deeper inside, bones shifting, muscles reforming. It didn't hurt exactly. It felt more like my body was remembering something it had forgotten. "Talk to me," Maya said, sitting across from me. "Tell me what you're feeling." "Weird. Not bad weird, just different. Like I'm becoming what I'm supposed to be." "What you're supposed to be?" "Rachel, listen to yourself. You're a person, a human being. This isn't, whatever's happening isn't natural." "Isn't it? Maybe this is more natural than what I was before." She reached for my hand, then pulled back when she saw the claws. Because that's what they were now. Not fingernails, not talons. Claws. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." Jake paced by the window. Every few minutes he'd peer out into the darkness. "The fire's back," he said suddenly. "What?" "The campfire, it's burning again. I put it out before we started packing. I made sure." We all looked out the window. He was right. Flames danced in the fire ring, bright and cheerful, as if inviting us to come sit by the warmth. "Don't go out there," I said. "I'm not stupid." But even as he said it, I could see the pull in his eyes. The fire wanted us, or something did. The night crawled by. Around 4 in the morning, Jake thought he heard voices outside. Around 5, Maya said she saw movement near the bathhouse. I sat at the table watching my body change, waiting for sunrise. It came slowly. Gray light filtering through the trees, turning the world from black to green. Birds started singing. The normal sounds of a normal morning in a normal forest. Except we all knew it wasn't normal. Jake went out to work on the engine. Maya made coffee, though none of us drank it. I sat very still, trying not to think about the fact that scales now covered my arms completely and were creeping up my neck toward my face. Around 7, Jake came back in. "I can't fix it. Not without parts. We need to walk out." "Walk where?" Maya asked. "The entrance is 2 miles. We'd have to call from there. Or we flag down the ranger. Someone has to come check on us eventually." "What if they don't?" "They will. This is a state park. They do patrols." But I remembered the ranger's cabin at the entrance when we'd arrived. How empty it had looked. How the windows had been dark even though it was mid-afternoon. We hadn't actually seen a ranger. The entrance gate had just been open. "I'll go," I said. They both looked at me. "You can't," Maya said. "Look at you." "Exactly. Whatever's happening, it's happening to me. Maybe if I go toward it instead of away from it, I can figure out what it wants." "That's insane." "This whole thing is insane, but I can't just sit here and wait to turn into whatever I'm turning into." Jake ran a hand through his hair. "She's right. We need help. And we need it now. I'll go with her." "No," I said. "Stay with Maya. If something happens to me, you two need to get out of here." "Rachel, please." Finally, they agreed. Maya gave me a jacket to cover my arms. Jake gave me a baseball cap to hide the scales on my neck. We all pretended it made me look normal. I stepped outside. The morning air smelled different than it had yesterday. Richer. More alive. I could smell things I'd never smelled before. The sap running through the trees, the underground fungal networks, the breath of small animals hiding in their burrows. I started walking toward the entrance. The forest seemed to watch me. Every shadow contained movement. Every sound was a message I couldn't quite decipher. The clicking was constant now, coming from all directions, but I was starting to understand it. Not the words exactly, but the meaning behind them. Welcome home. You remember now. You're almost ready. The trail to the entrance should have taken 30 minutes. I walked for an hour and never found it. The path kept doubling back on itself, leading me in circles, or maybe the forest was rearranging itself around me. It was hard to tell. I passed the oak tree with the symbols. In daylight, they looked even stranger, and now I could read them. Or rather, I could understand them without reading. They told a story about something that lived in the forest. Something old. Something that waited for the right people to come along. People with the right bloodline, the right latent potential. People like me. I kept walking. My body continued to change. Scales spread across my chest. My spine curved, making me hunch forward. When I looked at my reflection in a puddle, I saw that my face had elongated. My jaw protruded. My teeth had grown into fangs. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt relief, like I'd been wearing an uncomfortable costume my whole life and was finally allowed to take it off. Around noon, or what I thought was noon, time felt slippery. I found the clearing again. The one where I'd seen the not Jake last night. Only now, in daylight, I could see there were dozens of them, standing in a circle around the clearing, waiting. They all looked human at first glance, but wrong. Proportions off, movements too fluid, eyes too bright. And as I watched, they began to change, scales erupting across their skin, claws growing, spines curving. They were like me, or I was like them. One of them approached. It had Maya's face. "No," I said, backing away. "No, Maya's at the RV. Maya's safe." The not Maya tilted its head, and I heard Maya's voice say, "Am I? Are you sure?" Another one stepped forward. Jake's face. "We've been waiting for you, Rachel. We knew you'd come eventually. You always come back." "I don't understand. You don't remember yet, but you will. You're one of us. You always have been." The human form was just a temporary disguise, a way to move through their world without being seen. But now it's time to shed it. Time to come home. My hands, no longer really hands, twitched. The claws flexed. And deep in my changing mind, I felt something stir. A memory that wasn't a memory. A sense of belonging that I'd never felt before. "What are you?" I whispered. "What are we?" Jake's voice corrected. "And we don't have a name in the human language. We're old. We were here before the Seminoles, before the Creeks, before the first humans crossed the land bridge. We've always been here, in the deep places. And sometimes, very rarely, one of us goes into the human world, takes a human form, lives a human life. Some do it out of curiosity, some as punishment, some forget they were ever anything else. That's not possible. Isn't it? Tell me, Rachel, have you ever felt like you fit in? Have you ever looked at other humans and wondered why they didn't see the world the way you did? Have you ever felt like your body was wrong, like it was a prison you couldn't escape? I had. God, I had. My whole life I'd felt like I was acting a part, playing a role, pretending to be something I wasn't. "The tree," I said, "the symbols, they triggered this. They reminded you, woke up what was dormant. Your human disguise is falling away, and the real you is emerging." I looked down at my body, at the scales, the claws, the hunched spine. This was the real me. "Where are Maya and Jake?" I asked. "The real ones." The not Maya smiled. "At the RV, waiting for you, terrified. They don't understand what you're becoming. I need to go back to them." "Why? They're not your people, they never were. But they were my friends. I'd known Maya for 10 years. We'd been through everything together. Bad breakups, career changes, her father's death. She'd held me while I cried. I'd done the same for her. And yet, there was a part of me, growing larger with each passing moment, that didn't care. That saw her as something foreign, something other. "If I go back," I said slowly, "will you hurt them?" "That depends on you. If you accept what you are, embrace it, they'll be fine, we'll let them leave. But if you keep fighting, keep clinging to your human life." The not Jake shrugged. "We don't like loose ends." So that was the choice. Become whatever this was, or everyone I loved would die. "I need time," I said. "You have until sunset. After that, the change completes whether you accept it or not. And if you haven't chosen by then, well, we'll make the choice for you." The creatures melted back into the forest, leaving me alone in the clearing. I sat down on the ground, my 2 long limbs folding in ways that should have been uncomfortable but felt natural. The sun moved across the sky. I could feel it in my scales, warm and comforting. I thought about my life, my apartment in Tampa, my job at the marketing firm, my aging Honda, my student loans, my mother's weekly phone calls. The life I'd built brick by brick, year after year, trying to create something stable and normal. It had always felt like a costume, a performance. But wasn't that what being human was? Weren't we all performing, all pretending to be more certain and settled than we really were? The sun sank toward the horizon. I could feel the change accelerating. My thoughts were becoming less linear, more instinctual. Human language was starting to feel clumsy, inadequate. The clicking language made more sense. I had to decide. I stood up. A strange motion now, my center of gravity shifted and walked back toward the campground. The RV came into view just as the sun touched the treetops. Maya and Jake were outside, frantically trying to flag down a truck that had pulled up. The Ranger, finally. I stepped out of the trees. All 3 of them turned. The Ranger's hand went to his hip, to a gun that wasn't there. Maya screamed. Jake stepped in front of her, protective even though he was terrified. "Rachel?" Maya's voice was small, broken. I tried to say yes, tried to tell her it was still me, but what came out was clicking sounds. The Ranger pulled a radio from his belt. "I need backup at Site 7. We have I don't know what we have. Some kind of animal." I wanted to explain. Wanted to tell them I was making a choice. That I was choosing them. Choosing humanity. But my tongue wouldn't form the words anymore. My throat had reshaped itself. I clicked again, trying to make them understand. Jake picked up a stick, held it like a weapon. "Stay back." The Ranger spoke into his radio. "It's aggressive. I need someone with a tranquilizer gun." No, that wasn't right. I wasn't aggressive. I was trying to help. I took a step forward. Jake swung the stick. It cracked across my shoulder and I felt a flash of pain that quickly transformed into anger. My body moved before my mind could catch up, fast and fluid, and suddenly Jake was on the ground, bleeding from deep gashes across his chest. Maya screamed. I looked at my claws. They were red. I'd hurt Jake. I'd hurt my friend. The Ranger pulled out a knife. "Get in the RV," he told Maya. "Now." She ran. The Ranger positioned himself between us, knife ready. "I don't want to hurt you," he said, "but I will if I have to." I tried to tell him I didn't want violence, that this was all a mistake. But another sound came from my throat, a hiss that sounded threatening even to my own ears. More creatures emerged from the forest. The not Maya, the not Jake, dozens of others. They surrounded the campsite, clicking to each other in that language I was starting to understand too well. "She's chosen. She hurt one of them. She's ours now." No, I hadn't chosen. It was an accident. But had it been? In that moment when Jake hit me, hadn't there been a part of me, the growing, changing part, that had wanted to hurt him back? That had seen him as prey? The Ranger looked at the creatures surrounding us, then at me, then at Jake bleeding on the ground. His face went pale. What the hell is happening? I wished I could tell him. The creatures moved in, not aggressive but inevitable, like a tide. The Ranger lunged at one with his knife. The blade sank into scale-covered flesh, but the creature didn't even flinch. It backhanded him casually, and he went flying into a tree unconscious before he hit the ground. Maya was in the RV, screaming, trying to lock the door, but it didn't matter. Several creatures simply ripped the door off its hinges. She scrambled toward the back, sobbing. I wanted to help her, but I didn't move. The not Maya approached me, put a clawed hand on my shoulder. "It's done," it said in that clicking language I now understood perfectly. "You've made your choice even if you don't want to admit it. Welcome home." The sun set. My transformation completed. Whatever humanity I'd been clinging to evaporated like morning dew. I looked at Maya, really looked at her, and felt nothing. She was prey, food, a foreign thing. She stared back at me from the RV, tears streaming down her face. "Rachel, please, please, it's me, it's Maya, don't you remember?" I did remember, but the memories felt distant now, like they belonged to someone else. The creature I'd been pretending to be, the human called Rachel Miller, was gone. I turned and walked into the forest. The others followed. Behind us, I heard Maya screaming my name, begging me to come back, but that name meant nothing to me now. We moved through the trees, a hunting pack, and the forest welcomed us home. The last human thought I had was a simple one. I should have run when I had the chance. But even that faded as we melted into the deeper woods, where the old things lived, where they had always lived, patient and waiting for those of us who'd forgotten what we really were. They found the campsite 3 days later, the RV doors torn off, Jake's body, partially eaten, the ranger unconscious but alive, and Maya still inside the RV, rocking back and forth, repeating the same words over and over. She changed. She changed. She looked at me and there was nothing there. Nothing human. They searched the forest for weeks. They found the oak tree with its strange symbols. They found the clearing where dozens of humanoid tracks circled endlessly. They found scraps of my clothing, my phone, my ID. They never found me. The case remains open. Sometimes hikers in Ocala National Forest report strange encounters. A woman who walks wrong, whose eyes reflect light like an animal's, who clicks instead of speaking. They say if you get close enough you can see the scales under her clothes. They say she travels with others like her, moving through the deep forest, hunting. They say if you look into her eyes you might see a flicker of recognition, a moment where the human she used to be surfaces briefly before drowning again in whatever she's become. They say a lot of things, but I don't think about any of that anymore. I hunt, I feed, I move through the green darkness with my family, the ones who know what I really am. Sometimes in the moments between sleep and waking, I remember Maya's face, the terror in her eyes, the way she called my name like it was a spell that could bring me back. But I can't go back. The transformation is complete. The human disguise has fallen away completely. This is what I am. This is what I always was. And on certain nights when the moon is dark and the forest is silent, I return to that campground. I stand at the edge of the trees and watch the RVs arrive, full of people who don't know what waits for them in the deep woods. I watch them light their fires and laugh and think they're safe, and I click softly to my family in the shadows. Because sometimes, very rarely, we find another one of us. Another human who's really one of us, who just needs to be reminded. Another one ready to shed their skin and come home. My name is Mason Scott. I found my bag lying beside a tree but I'd never left it. I need to write this down while I still remember how it started, while I still remember me. Dr. Reeves said keeping a journal might help with the episodes, with the gaps in my memory that started after Sarah died. Document the facts, she told me. Ground yourself in what's real. So here are the facts. I'm 34 years old. I'm a logistics coordinator for a medical supply company in Jacksonville. I own a 2019 Winnebago Travato that I bought after the funeral because I couldn't stand being in our apartment anymore. And 3 days ago, I drove to Ocala National Forest to spend a long weekend alone, trying to figure out if I still wanted to keep going. The campground host at Juniper Springs was a woman in her 60s named Carol, with sun-damaged skin and reading glasses on a beaded chain. She took my information without much interest, handed me a map with my site circled in red pen, and told me the showers closed at 10. "You here alone?" she asked. "Yeah." "Well, stay on the marked trails if you go hiking. We had someone go missing last month. Turned up eventually, but..." She shrugged. "Forest is bigger than people think." Site 23 was a gravel pad in a semicircle of sand pines, far enough from the other RVs that I couldn't hear their generators. I got the Travato leveled and hooked up the electric, then sat in the driver's seat drinking a beer and watching the sunset through the windshield. The forest at dusk looked like it was filling up with dark water. I didn't plan to hike that first day, I just walked. Around 7, I grabbed my day pack, the blue Osprey that Sarah bought me for my birthday 2 years ago, and headed down the trail that led toward the springs. I wasn't going far, maybe a mile. Just needed to move, needed to feel my legs working, needed to pretend I had a destination. The trail was well marked, easy to follow. I passed a couple coming back the other way, nodded at them. The woman smiled. The man looked exhausted. They had the clean, slightly desperate look of people trying to fix their marriage with a camping trip. I walked for maybe 40 minutes before I noticed how quiet it had gotten. No birds, no insects, just the sound of my boots on the sandy trail and my own breathing. I stopped, looked around, and couldn't shake the feeling that the trees had moved closer while I was walking. That the trail behind me was slightly different than it should be. Dr. Reeves would call this a symptom. Derealization, depersonalization, the brain's way of protecting itself from grief by making everything feel unreal. I took a breath, counted to 10, and turned back. That's when I saw the backpack. It was sitting beside the trail, maybe 20 feet ahead of me, propped against a pine tree like someone had carefully placed it there. Blue Osprey, same size as mine, same wear pattern on the shoulder straps where they'd rubbed against the buckles. I looked down at my shoulders, at the pack I was wearing, then back at the one by the tree. My first thought was coincidence. Someone else had the same pack. But as I got closer, I saw the details that made my stomach drop. The small burn mark on the front pocket where Sarah had accidentally touched it with a cigarette lighter. The yellow carabiner clipped to the side that I'd taken from a trade show booth. The torn loop where I'd caught it on a fence post last summer. I stood there for a full minute just staring at it, before I finally walked over and picked it up. It was heavy. I unzipped the main compartment, my water bottle, my first aid kit in its red nylon case, my headlamp with the cracked battery cover, a Ziploc bag containing my wallet, car keys, and phone. I reached into my own pack, felt for my wallet, pulled it out, opened it, driver's license, credit cards, $43 in cash, everything where it should be. I looked at the wallet from the other pack. Same leather, same scratches. I opened it. My face looked back at me from the license, but the issue date was wrong. It said 2023. I'd renewed mine in 2024, just last January. I dropped both packs and stepped back, heart hammering. This wasn't derealization. This wasn't a symptom. This was real, physical, impossible. I picked up both packs and walked back to the campground as fast as I could without running. The whole way, I kept checking over my shoulder, expecting to see... What? Myself? Following me? When I got back to Site 23, I locked both packs in the RV and sat on the picnic table, trying to think logically. Someone was fucking with me. That was the only explanation. Someone knew I'd be hiking that trail, knew what my pack looked like, created a duplicate, and planted it there. But why? And how would they know about the burn mark, the specific carabiner? I pulled out my phone. No signal. I'd known that before coming here. Ocala is a dead zone for most carriers, but it suddenly felt intentional, isolating. At 9:15 p.m., I went to use the showers. The bathhouse was cinder block painted institutional beige, lit by fluorescent tubes that hummed loud enough to make my teeth ache. I was alone in there, which was good, because I stood under the spray for 20 minutes just trying to wash away the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. When I came out, Carol was locking up the office. "Hey," I called. Question for you. She looked up, squinting in the dark. Yeah? Has anyone reported lost property recently, like a backpack? Not that I know of. You find something? Maybe. I'll bring it by tomorrow. She nodded and walked to her golf cart. Sleep tight. I went back to the RV and locked the door, pulled the curtains, laid both packs side by side on the dinette table and examined them under the overhead light. They were identical, not similar, identical. Same level of wear on the zippers, same dirt on the bottom, same small tear in the mesh pocket. I emptied them both, compared every item. 2 of everything, 2 wallets, 2 sets of keys, 2 phones, both dead, both with cracked screens in the exact same place. I plugged in my phone to charge it, then I tried the other one. It powered on. Same wallpaper as mine. A photo of Sarah and me at Cumberland Island, her hair blowing in the wind, both of us smiling. But when I checked the photo gallery, I didn't recognize half the pictures. Same locations, Ocala, the Springs, this campground, but I wasn't in them. Or rather, I was, but I didn't remember taking them. Couldn't remember being there. There was a video dated that morning. This morning. I hesitated, then pressed play. It was me. Same RV interior. Same dinette table. Here I was talking directly to the camera. If you're watching this, it means you found the pack. Good. That's good. My voice, but wrong. Hoarse. Exhausted. Listen to me very carefully. Don't go to the Springs tomorrow. Don't talk to the woman in Site 17. And whatever you do, don't go into the forest after midnight. You'll hear her calling. It sounds like her, but it's not. Do you understand? It's not Sarah. The video ended. I sat there, phone trembling in my hand, for probably 5 minutes before I could move. Then I grabbed my own phone, opened the camera, and started recording. Okay. This is Mason Scott. It's September 13th, 2024. I'm at Juniper Springs Campground in Ocala National Forest. I found a backpack on the trail today that appears to be mine, but I didn't lose it. Inside was a phone with a video message from me. From someone who looks exactly like me. I swallowed. I don't know what's happening, but I'm documenting this. I'm documenting everything. I saved the video and plugged the phone in beside the other one. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the dinette with both phones watching that video over and over, trying to find evidence of CGI or deep fake technology. But I knew what I was looking at. It was me. My mannerisms. My tells. The way I touch my left eyebrow when I'm anxious. The way I clear my throat before saying something difficult. At 12:47 a.m., I heard someone calling my name. It was distant, coming from the direction of the Springs. A woman's voice. Sarah's voice. Mason? Mason, where are you? I stood up, pulled back the curtain, looked out into the darkness. The campground was quiet. Security lights glowing. No movement. Mason, I'm lost. Please, I need help. My hand went to the door handle, stopped. Don't go into the forest after midnight, you'll hear her calling. It sounds like her, but it's not. I backed away from the door, heart pounding. The voice kept calling for another 10 minutes, getting closer, getting more desperate. Then it stopped. Just silence, and the hum of my refrigerator, and the blood pounding in my ears. At 3 a.m., I finally dozed off in the driver's seat, phone clutched in my hand. I woke up at 8:30 to someone knocking on the door. It was Carol, looking annoyed. You're in the wrong site. I blinked at her. What? Site 23. You're supposed to be in Site 17. I got someone pulling in this afternoon that reserved 23. No, I'm in the right place. You gave me this site yesterday, Site 23. She frowned, pulled out a clipboard. Mason Scott, reservation for Site 17. See? She turned the clipboard around. My name, Site 17, in her handwriting. That's not right. You gave me a map. You circled Site 23. I don't know what to tell you. You're in the wrong spot. Need you to move by noon. I started to argue, then stopped. What did it matter? Fine, I'll move. After she left, I found the map she'd given me yesterday. Site 17 was circled in red pen. I could have sworn it said 23. I would have bet my life on it. I drove the RV to Site 17, just 2 spots down, closer to the main road, and spent the morning sitting at the picnic table, watching other campers come and go. A family with 3 kids, an older couple with a pristine Airstream, a guy about my age setting up a hammock between 2 trees. At 1 p.m., I saw myself walk past. He was wearing the same clothes I'd worn yesterday, blue hiking shirt, khaki shorts, osprey backpack. He didn't look at me, just walked toward the trail with purpose, like he knew exactly where he was going. I stood up, started to call out, but nothing came out. I watched him disappear into the trees. 10 minutes later, I grabbed the backpack, the one I'd found, and followed. The trail looked different in daylight, less threatening. Families with small children, groups of college kids, a ranger checking trail conditions. I kept my eyes open for the other me, but there was no sign of him. When I reached the spot where I'd found the backpack, there was nothing, just an empty stretch of trail. I stood there looking around and noticed something scratched into the bark of the pine tree. MS 912. My initials, yesterday's date. I touched the carving, fresh. The sap was still wet. Something moved in my peripheral vision. I turned, saw the flash of a blue shirt maybe 50 yards into the trees off the trail. I pushed through the palmetto scrub and followed. The forest was thicker here, harder to navigate. I lost sight of the blue shirt almost immediately, but kept going, pulled by something I couldn't name. The trees seemed to close in. The light got dimmer. I should have been reaching the springs by now, should have heard water, heard voices, but there was only silence and the rustle of my own movement through the undergrowth. I found him in a clearing. He was sitting on a fallen log, head in his hands. The backpack was beside him. When he looked up, I saw my own face staring back at me, but wrong. Hollow. Exhausted. Like he hadn't slept in days. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Who are you? You know who I am?" I took a step closer. "This isn't possible." "No, it's not." He laughed, but it came out broken. "But here we are anyway. How many days has it been for you?" "What?" "Since you arrived, how many days?" "1, I got here yesterday." He nodded slowly. "Good, you've got time." "Maybe." "Time for what?" "To get out, before it happens." "Before what happens?" He stood up, and I saw that his hands were shaking. "You're going to see her. You already have, haven't you? Heard her calling?" My throat went dry. "That wasn't real. It's as real as it needs to be. Real enough to make you follow, and once you follow..." He trailed off, looked past me into the trees. I followed. On the 3rd night, I thought... I don't know what I thought. That maybe she'd really come back. That somehow this place had brought her back. "Who did you find?" "Something wearing her face." He met my eyes. It knew things, private things, things only Sarah would know. And I almost believed it. I wanted to believe it so badly. But then it smiled at me, and I saw what was behind the smile. I felt ice sliding down my spine. What happened? I ran, got lost, was out there for 2 days before I found my way back. And when I got back to the campground, I saw you, saw myself, arriving for the first time, setting up the RV. And I realized I'd done this before. Kept doing this. Over and over. That's insane. Yeah. He picked up his backpack. That's why I left this for you. The phone, the video, hoping maybe this time would be different. That you'd listen, that you'd leave before it's too late. Too late for what? I don't know. I don't remember everything. The loops, they wear away at you. Each time I remember less. Less of who I was before. Less of Sarah. Less of myself. Eventually, he looked at his hands like he didn't recognize them. Eventually, I think we just become part of the forest. Part of whatever this place is. I wanted to tell him he was crazy, that this was a breakdown, a psychotic episode, something explainable. But I was standing there talking to myself, and everything he was saying resonated with a truth I could feel in my bones. How do I stop it? I asked. I don't know. Leave, maybe. Don't come back. Don't ever come back to Ocala. You didn't leave. No. He smiled sadly. I couldn't, because what if she's really out there? What if one of these times it actually is her? He walked past me, heading deeper into the forest. Wait, I called. Where are you going? To find out, he said, without looking back. I stood there for a long time after he disappeared, trying to process what had just happened. Then I pulled out my phone to check the time. No signal, but the date was wrong. September 14th. It should have been the 13th. I'd only been here one night. I ran back to the trail, got turned around twice, finally found the right path. By the time I reached the campground, the sun was setting. The RV was gone. Site 17 was empty. Just a gravel pad and a picnic table. No Travato, no gear, nothing. I walked to the camp office. Carol was inside, watching TV. Excuse me, I said. My RV. Someone moved my RV. She looked up, confused. Who are you? Mason Scott. I'm in Site 17. Or I was. My RV is gone. She checked her computer, frowned. I don't have any reservation under that name, and Site 17 checked out this morning. That's impossible. I'm staying here. I moved from Site 23 to Site 17 this morning. Sir, Site 23 has been empty all week, and Site 17 was occupied by a family from Miami. They left at 8 a.m. I stared at her. You gave me a map yesterday, circled my site. I've never seen you before. My hands started shaking. I pulled out my wallet, showed her my license. Mason Scott. I made a reservation 3 weeks ago. She looked at the license, looked at me, then back at her computer. I'm sorry, sir, I don't have any record of you, and all our sites are booked for the weekend. I left the office, walked through the campground in the gathering dark, looking for the Travato. It wasn't there. None of the RVs looked familiar. The site numbers seemed wrong. I ended up at Site 23, where I'd been, and found a family cooking dinner on a portable grill. The kids were playing cornhole. The parents were drinking wine. They looked at me like I was a ghost. I kept walking, out to the parking lot, and there it was, the Travato, parked in the day-use area. I tried the door, locked, peered through the window, empty, cleaned out, like I'd never been there. My keys were in my pocket. I pulled them out, unlocked it, climbed inside. It was my RV. Same layout, same smell. But all my stuff was gone. No clothes, no food, no phones. The only thing left was a piece of paper on the dinette table. I unfolded it. You're starting to understand? Good. Now listen. There are 3 of us here right now. Maybe more. I don't know anymore. Some of us remember more than others. Some of us have been here for days, some for weeks. Time doesn't work right in this place. Neither does memory. You'll forget things, lose hours, find yourself in places you don't remember going. The woman in the forest, the thing that sounds like Sarah, it's the center of this. It's what keeps us here, what keeps us looping. As long as we believe it might be her, as long as we keep hoping, we can't leave. I'm going to try something tonight. I'm going to confront it. Face it directly. Maybe that will break the loop. If you're reading this, it means I failed. Don't make the same mistake. Get in the RV and drive. Don't stop. Don't look back. And don't ever come back to Ocala. The note wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. I sat there until it was full dark, trying to decide. Then I heard it again. Sarah's voice, calling from the forest. Mason, please, I'm scared. I need you. I closed my eyes, counted to 10, opened them. Through the windshield, I could see someone standing at the edge of the trees. A woman. Her back to me. Long dark hair. Wearing the green jacket Sarah loved. She turned. It was Sarah. Her face, her eyes, her smile. She looked exactly like she had the day before the accident. Before the drunk driver ran the red light before the hospital. Before I had to decide about the machines. She waved. I unlocked the door. I climbed out. I started walking toward her. Behind me, I heard someone shouting, "No, don't!" But the voice was distant, unimportant. Sarah was right there. Sarah was alive. Sarah was waiting for me. She backed into the trees, still smiling, and I followed. The forest swallowed me whole. I don't know how long I walked. Time felt strange, elastic. Sometimes the trees were close together, suffocating. Sometimes they opened into clearings I didn't remember passing. The moon moved across the sky too fast, then too slow. Then it was in two places at once. Sarah stayed ahead of me, always just out of reach, leading me deeper. Finally, in a clearing I recognized but couldn't place, she stopped. "Hello, Mason," she said. "Sarah. God, I thought... You thought I was dead. You are dead. You died in March." She tilted her head. "Did I? Are you sure?" "I was there. I held your hand. I made the decision to..." My voice broke. "To let me go." "Yes." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That must have been hard. I'm losing my mind. That's what this is. Grief-induced psychosis. Maybe. Or maybe you came here looking for a way to undo what you did, to take it back. I can't take it back. That's not how it works." "No?" She stepped closer. "What if I told you that every choice creates a branch? Every decision spawns another version of you that chose differently. And what if I told you that this place, this forest, is where those branches intersect? That's not possible." "You keep saying that." She was close enough now that I could smell her perfume, the same one she'd worn. "But here I am. Here you are. How many versions of you do you think are wandering this forest right now, Mason? All of them looking for me. All of them trying to make a different choice." I took a step back. "You're not Sarah. I'm every Sarah. I'm the one who died, the one who lived, the one who never met you. The one who said yes to your proposal, the one who said no. I'm all of them and none of them, and I'm here because you brought me here, because you can't let me go." "I did let you go." "Did you?" She reached out, touched my face with her hand. Her skin was cold. "Then why are you here, Mason? Why did you come to Ocala?" I didn't have an answer. "I'll tell you why," she continued. "Because somewhere, deep down, you hoped. You hoped that if you disappeared into the woods, you'd find a version of things where I wasn't gone, where you made different choices, better choices. And this place, it feeds on that hope. It sustains itself on the desperate need of people like you, people who can't accept reality." I pulled away from her touch. "What are you?" "I'm what this forest grows. I'm the thing that keeps you here. And I'm hungry, Mason, so hungry. Do you know how many of you I've already consumed? How many versions of Mason Scott are wandering these trees, their memories eaten away, their identities dissolved? You're not the first. You won't be the last." She smiled, and this time I saw what was behind it. Something vast and old and alien, something that wore Sarah's face the way I wore clothes. I ran. Behind me I heard laughter, multiple voices, all of them mine, all of them Sarah's, all of them blending together into something that made my ears bleed and my vision blur. I crashed through the forest, branches whipping my face, roots catching my feet. I fell, got up, fell again, kept moving. The trees all looked the same. I was lost. I pulled out my phone. No signal. The battery was at 2%. The time said 3:33 a.m. The date said September 12th, yesterday, before I'd even arrived. The phone died. I kept running, and the forest kept changing around me. Sometimes it was day, sometimes night. Sometimes I saw other versions of myself running through the trees, pale and terrified. Sometimes I saw Sarah, multiple Sarahs, all of them smiling. Finally, I burst out onto a trail, the main trail, the one that led back to the campground. I followed it, legs shaking, lungs burning, past the spot where I'd found the backpack, past the ranger station, past the warning signs. The campground appeared ahead, lit by security lights. I could see RVs, people, safety. I staggered into Site 23. The Travato was there. I collapsed against it, sobbing, and pulled out my keys with shaking hands. Got the door open, climbed inside. Everything was where I'd left it. My clothes, my food, the 2 backpacks on the dinette table, the 2 phones. I grabbed one of the phones, turned it on. It was dead, but there was enough charge to show the lock screen. September 13th, 2024. 9:47 a.m. I charged it, waited for it to power on fully, and checked the video gallery. There were dozens of videos, all of me, all recorded at different times, different days. I clicked on the most recent. My face appeared on screen. He looked bad, haggard, eyes hollow. This is Mason Scott. It's September 15th, I think. The days are getting hard to track. I've been here for 4 days now, but Carol says I just arrived this morning. The other me, the one from yesterday or tomorrow, I don't know anymore. He's still in the forest. I can hear him screaming at night. I tried to leave twice. Both times I ended up back here. The roads loop. No matter which direction I drive, I end up at Juniper Springs, I think. I think the forest won't let us go until we give up, until we stop being ourselves, until we become part of it. Sarah came to me again last night. Or the thing pretending to be Sarah. It told me I could end this. All I have to do is accept her death, really accept it. Stop hoping. Stop looking for ways to undo it. But I can't. I can't do it. Because if I stop hoping, what's left? The video ended. I scrolled through the others. More of the same. Different days, different states of decay. In the last video, the me on screen looked barely human, skin pale, eyes sunken, moving with a strange mechanical quality. If you're watching this, he said, it means you're me, one of me, and you need to know. There is no escape. The forest has us. All of us. Every version that came here looking for her. We're caught in a loop that feeds on itself. We arrive. We hope. We search. We find nothing but ourselves. And then we arrive again. The only way out is to become something else. Something that doesn't hope, doesn't remember, doesn't feel. But I don't want that. I'd rather stay here, stuck, than lose what little I have left of her. So I'm going back into the forest. Maybe this time will be different. The video cut off. I sat there, phone in my hand, as the full horror of it sank in. I was trapped. How many times had I done this already? How many loops? How many versions of me were out there right now, all thinking this was their first time? I stood up, walked to the door, looked out at the campground, and saw myself, pulling in, the Travato, coming to a stop at Site 23, getting out, looking around. The past me, or the future me, or another version entirely. He looked tired, sad, exactly like I'd looked when I arrived. I watched him unhook his RV, set up, grab a beer, sit in the driver's seat and watch the sun set. This had all happened before. This was happening now. This would happen again. I wanted to run over there, warn him, tell him to leave, but I knew it wouldn't matter. I'd probably been warned, had probably ignored it, would probably ignore it again, because deep down I wanted to be here, because deep down I was still hoping. The next morning I watched myself, the other me, grab the blue backpack and head toward the trail. I knew where he was going, knew what he would find. I followed at a distance, staying out of sight. He found the backpack exactly where I'd found it. I watched him go through the same realization I'd gone through, the same horror, the same confusion. Then he took both packs and walked back to camp. That night I heard Sarah calling. I stayed in my RV, but the other me didn't. I watched him leave his RV, Watched him walk into the forest, drawn by her voice. He didn't come back. 3 hours later, I saw another RV pull into Site 17. Watched another Mason Scott climb out. This one looked older, grayer, like he'd been here much longer. The next day, there were 4 of us in the campground. Then 6. Then I lost count. We didn't talk to each other. What would be the point? We all knew what was happening. We were all trapped in the same loop, spinning around the same hope, the same grief, the same impossible wish. Some of the older versions had stopped looking human. They moved wrong. Spoken sentences that didn't quite make sense. Looked at you with eyes that had forgotten what eyes were for. I tried to leave once more. Made it as far as the main road before everything went gray, and I blinked and I was back at Site 23, pulling in for the first time. That's when I understood. There was no first time, no arrival, no beginning. I'd always been here. I'm writing this now because I can feel myself starting to forget. The details are getting fuzzy. Sarah's face is becoming harder to picture. My own name sounds strange when I say it aloud. Soon, I think, I'll be like the older versions, walking the forest, calling out to myself, leaving backpacks for versions of me that haven't arrived yet. Or maybe I already am. Maybe I'm the oldest version, so lost in the loop that I think I'm new. Maybe I've been here for years, decades, and this first day is just another rotation. I can hear her calling again. Mason. Mason, please. I'm lost. And I know that it's not her. That it's the forest. That it's the thing that feeds on hope and grief and the desperate need to undo what cannot be undone. But maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time, it really will be her. I'm going to find out. If you're reading this, if you're me, if you've just arrived at Ocala National Forest looking for peace or answers or a way to forget, leave. Get in your RV and drive until you run out of gas. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because once you start hoping, once you start believing that maybe, just maybe, she could come back, the forest has you. I can hear her calling. I'm putting down this pen. I'm walking out the door. Maybe this time will be different. My name is Mason Scott. I found my bag lying beside a tree, but I never left it. Note found on the dinette table of an abandoned RV at Juniper Springs Campground, Ocala National Forest. Date unknown. The RV's registration and VIN matched no existing vehicle. Site 23 has been closed indefinitely. Carol, the campground host, has no memory of anyone named Mason Scott.